Hey guys, today we're going to be factoring using the GCF method. This means that we are going to be finding the greatest common factor, or the biggest number that we can divide by, and dividing our expression out and turning it into a product, which means it's going to look like multiplication. It will look like you should distribute it. So we're doing the reverse of distributive property. I'm going to go over these first 4 problems in this video with you. So let's go ahead and start with number 1. Okay. Up here at the top, I've written the steps, so if you need to pause and write these down, please do so. We're going to find the GCF. Then we're going to divide by the GCF. We're going to write our answer as a product, and then we're going to check our answer. So let's start off with number 1. It says 28x plus 36. I'm going to find the greatest common factor between these two terms. Now, if you know your divisibility rules really well, you can already see what the biggest number that you can divide these by. But if you struggle with that, here's the easiest method to do this. Take these numbers and write the numbers that you would multiply to get it. So for instance, let's start with 28x. We could multiply 1 times 28. We can multiply 2 times 14. And we could multiply 4 times 7. There's also an x in this term, so I'm just going to tag an x on the bottom. That'll be important later on. The other term is 36. I can do 1 and 36. I can do 2 and 18, 2 times 18. I could do 3 times 12. I could do 4 times 9. And I could do 6 times 6. There's no variable, so I'm not going to tag a variable on the end. From this list, we're going to determine what our GCF will be. So, look at the numbers, see what they have in common. They have a 1, a 2, and a 4. The biggest of those would be the number 4. They do not have any variables in common, so our GCF is just 4. We're going to take that GCF and we're going to divide by it. So we're going to go over here, we're going to divide each term by the GCF. So I'm dividing each of those by 4. And we're going to start writing our answer from here. So your answer will always start by taking your GCF and putting it in front of parentheses. Inside the parentheses, you're going to actually do the division. So 28x divided by 4 would give me 7x. And positive 36 divided by 4 would give me positive 9. Close the parentheses. So again, it's GCF on the outside that you got from here. And then after you divided, whatever that was goes in the parentheses. This is your answer. So you should choose your answer from the multiple choice list based on this. But you can always check. So I'm going to show you how to check your answer. To check your answer, you're going to take what you got and you're going to distribute. So 4 times 7x is 28x. And 4 times 9 is 36. That matches the same thing that I had at the beginning. So this is my answer. Okay, so this is your answer. Okay, let's try another one. And let's move over here. We have 49y squared plus 35x minus 28. Just to save a little time, I went ahead and wrote down all the factors, so let's go over those. We have 49y squared. We could do 1 times 49, 7 times 7, and there were 2 y's, so I tagged those on the end. 35x, the middle term, I could do 1 times 35, 5 times 7, and they had an x, so I tagged that on the end. And then finally 28, 1 times 28, 2 times 14, 4 times 7. I'm going to find my greatest common factor. My greatest common factor between all 3 numbers is a 7. I'm just going to check the variables. This one did not have a variable, so there should be no variable in the GCF. So let's go up to the top. Let's divide all of the terms by the GCF, which is 7. Let's start writing our answer as a product. So I'm going to put my GCF on the outside of parentheses. Now let's divide. 49y squared divided by 7 is 7y squared. 35x divided by 7 is 5x. And negative 28 divided by 7 is negative 4. This is my answer. Remember that if you want to check your answer, you're going to take this and distribute it back out. Okay, let's move on to number 3. On number 3, we have 20y squared plus 20y squared x cubed minus 15y squared minus 40yx. Once again, I went ahead and wrote these down just to save some time. But for 20y squared x cubed, 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5, there were 2 y's, so I put 2 y's on the end, and there were 3 x's. 15y squared, you could do 1 times 15 or 3 times 5. There were 2 y's, so I put those on the end here. And then 40yx, 1 times 40, 2 times 20, 4 times 10, 5 times 8. There was 1 y and 1 x. So let's go through and see what our greatest common factor is. So I noticed that they all have a 5. Now let's look at the variables. This has an x. This does not. So there's no x in the GCF. But look at the y's. There are 2 y's here, 2 y's here, and 1 here. So they each have 1 y in common. So my GCF is 5y. So again, we had the greatest number they could be divided by, and all 3 of these terms had a y in them. They did not all have an x. So I'm going to take my GCF. I'm going to divide each of these by 5y. Let's start rewriting our answer as a product. So remember, the GCF is going to go out front and then parentheses. 20 divided by 5 is 4. Y squared divided by y is y. And a little trick here is you can always look down here. There was only 1 y that we didn't circle, so 1 y goes here. There are 3 x's that we didn't circle, so we're going to have x to the third. Negative 15 divided by 5 is going to give me negative 3. Y squared divided by y is going to be y. Again, if you want to do a trick here, go down here. We didn't circle 1 y, so we have 1 y here. And lastly, up here we have negative 40 divided by 5. That's going to give me negative 8. The y's are going to cancel, so I just have x. This is my answer. To check it, you can distribute to make sure you have it correct. Do one more together. We have 18n to the 6th power plus 48n to the 5th power. I went ahead and wrote down the factors. So for 18 we had 1 and 18, 2 times 9, 3 times 6, and there were 6 n's. On 48 there was 1 times 48, 2 times 24, 3 times 16, 4 times 12, 6 times 8, and there were 5 n's. So looking at the numbers, I think the greatest common one they have is the number 6. They definitely have some variables in common. So they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in common. So they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 n's in common. So I'm going to have n to the 5th power in my GCF. So let's go up here. Let's divide by 6n to the 5th power. I'm going to go ahead and start rewriting here. So remember, my GCF goes on the outside of my parentheses. 18 divided by 6 is 3. N to the 6th power divided by n to the 5th power would just be 1 n left. Again, a good trick is there's only 1 n left right here. Over here, 48 divided by 6 is 8. And the n to the 5th powers are going to cancel. So this is my answer. So just a quick summary. Remember that you're going to find the GCF. That is the biggest number that you can divide everything by. Don't forget to look at the variables. You're going to divide by the GCF and then write your answer as a product. Remember that we'll have the GCF on the outside of the parentheses, and we'll have whatever your quotient was on the inside. And then you want to check your answer by distributing. For your work, when you open up Edulastic, so I'm going to get out of this for just a second. When you open up Edulastic, your work will look like this. And sign in with Google if you haven't used Edulastic before. Your answers, so whatever you got for number 1, which we did together, was A. So I'm going to click A over here. If you have any questions, please let me know.